on out with Badgerland Birding. It's lots of fun.
This is the time of your life right now.
This is.
You'll remember this one.
I almost lost my boot.
I almost lost my leg.
The pursuit of birds can cause people to do some crazy things. In fact, there are some specific species that regularly draw people to strange places that they would never go otherwise. One such species is the Nelson sparrow. Nelson sparrows are very secretive and reside in thick tangles of weeds and grasses. Oftentimes, the best way to see one is to go right into the habitat. My two friends Kris and Colette joined me on a cold and rainy fall day to see if we could actually get eyes on a Nelson sparrow, as well as any other migratory birds that may be in the area.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan from Badgerland Birding. Today I am out in the middle of a field trying to search for what feels like a needle in a haystack, and that is the migrating Nelson sparrows. So I wasn't expecting there to be this much rain last night, but this field is completely soaked. The ground is really wet and it's dark and cold out today. So it's kind of a brutal day weather-wise, but hopefully we can come up with some good birds out here, including our target species, the Nelson sparrow.
We began walking the drenched fields, heading in the direction of a small lake. On our way, we noticed a few fall species, including palm warblers and rusty blackbirds. Rusty blackbirds are always a fun species to see, and eventually, they cooperated and gave us nice views. We continued toward the lake, where we encountered a large field of smartweed. Here we hoped would be the most fruitful spot for Nelson sparrows.
So I am walking through a field of what's called smartweed, and it's a plant that's maybe about 4 feet tall at its highest, but it's dripping wet with water from the rain. So as you walk through, you just get smacked with all this wet vegetation. But this is the kind of habitat that these Nelson sparrows really like. So I'm definitely in the right spot, but I haven't seen one yet.
While wandering around the smartweed, we managed to pick up some more species, including a great egret wading in the water, flyover American golden plovers, and copious amounts of killdeer. Unfortunately, in spite of our best efforts and getting thoroughly soaked, we came up empty on finding Nelson sparrows.
No luck on the Nelson sparrows, and I'm absolutely soaked and cold. I did find a lot of other cool birds out there, but this species today was just for whatever reason not willing to make itself known. So I might have to come back here some other time if reports keep coming in, but until then, I guess I'm going to go home empty-handed today.
A few weeks later, and with a few more unsuccessful attempts at chasing Nelson sparrows in between, I again found myself back in the thick weeds in search of these elusive birds.
I'm back trying to find a Nelson sparrow again. I'm at a place called Evansville State Wildlife Area, and now Derek is here back from Louisiana. Kris and Colette are here again, and we've tried to find Nelson sparrows so many times this year without luck, so hopefully this is going to be the day that we finally get them for this year.
With reports of Nelson sparrows and the extremely similar looking LeConte sparrow coming from this wildlife area, we felt optimistic that we would be able to find at least one of these species.
How do you like our odds?
I feel good. We're here in the morning, so that gives us a better chance than if we were here later in the day. Most birds tend to call earlier in the morning. But we'll be walking through some taller grasses and stuff, so we'll kind of have to see things as they fly up, and hopefully they'll perch up. If they go down, it'll be really tough for us to identify them, but if they sit up, we should be able to get some good views.
We walked a path past fields of corn, grass, and sunflowers that had gone to seed. This area was very birdy, with many American goldfinches and white-crowned sparrows taking advantage of the seeds in the fields. We continued past the short grass and into taller weeds. Here we found a few more sparrow species, as both song and Savannah sparrows flew from the ground into the trees. We also heard many eastern meadowlarks. Eventually, we reached habitat that looked better for our target birds. This was where the fun really began, as the firm ground turned into marsh, and the grasses and weeds reached up well past our legs.
We are just now moving into the right habitat. We were in some some shorter grassy areas earlier, and that's more like Savannah Sparrow, Song Sparrow habitat. You can kind of tell what types of birds you're seeing by where they go to when they move out of that area. So the Song Sparrows and the Savannah Sparrows, if they go to trees, they're probably not a Nelson's or LeConte's. If they go down, that's a good sign that might be a Nelson's or a LeConte's. So judging by the behavior, you can kind of gauge what it might be. Now that doesn't hold true all the time, but it's a good kind of test to see, like, maybe we should go look at some other birds, or maybe we should follow those and see what they are.
Tons of sparrows were in this area, including Lincoln sparrows, as well as a bird that we probably saw more than any other species.
Right, I'm getting a lot of swamp over here. Swamp sparrows.
Swamp sparrows appear more red in color than other sparrow species, with rusty brown on the sides and gray on the chest. They have white chins, reddish-brown striping on the head, and the same reddish-brown color on the wings and tail. This species can be found in eastern North America, with a migratory path that takes them into the northern US and southern Canada to breed. As their name suggests, swamp sparrows are commonly found in swamps and other areas with standing water. They particularly enjoy wet habitats with shrubs, bushes, or thick vegetation nearby. The abundance of sparrows at this location meant that there were constantly birds to look at. While fun, it made it harder to zero in on one of our target birds.
It's definitely been difficult so far. I've seen mostly swamp sparrows over here, but you know, any bird you see that just kind of dips down, you kind of got to get lucky if it's going to sit up or not. So.
Yeah, I saw something that might have looked a little orangey, but it just took off that way. So, and you never know, like it could have just been another swamp sparrow.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So there's definitely a couple birds you normally have to work for to get some good views.
We continued walking the fields, checking each sparrow that popped out. After an hour of fruitless searching, Derek moved over to a field with more water and shorter weeds. Here, we got our first sign that one of our target sparrows was around.
I think I got one, Colette.
Okay. But I do see a light line on the top of his
Real
head.
white looking bird?
Yeah.
That looks like
light.
a LeConte.
I think it's a LeConte.
Woohoo! Lifer.
We did it.
5th time's the charm. Oh no, this is the first time we're really chasing this one.
Well, good find, guys.
Thanks.
LeConte sparrows are notable for the orange coloration on their face, chest, sides, and wings. They have streaking on their sides and back with a white stripe on their head that is outlined by black. The nape of the LeConte sparrow is streaked, unlike the solid gray nape of the similar-looking Nelson sparrow. LeConte sparrows winter in the states along the Gulf Coast, but do not live exclusively along the ocean. They migrate north through some of the Midwestern and Great Lakes states, eventually ending up in their breeding locations in south-central Canada and the north-central United States. This species typically feeds along the ground in thick vegetation. They eat insects, spiders, and seeds of grasses and weeds. LeConte sparrows can be found in wet grassy areas. They don't typically frequent swamps, but rather places with water underneath the vegetation. They also live in drier areas as well, such as prairies.
Where are the Nelson sparrows?
Gotta get that darn Nelson's though.
Having successfully found one secretive sparrow species, we turned our attention to the other.
I've only ever seen one LeConte, and apparently there's like 3 hanging out here, and that was like by far the most cooperative one I've ever seen, so that was good. But now I want to get a Nelson's because I've tried like 5 times for that. I'm apparently 1 for 1 on LeContes this year, but like 0 for 5 on Nelson's.
With eBird reports indicating that the best spot to find Nelson sparrows may be in the thick vegetation near cattails, we made our way over. This was where the going was the toughest, with water well past the ankle hidden underneath the pricker-filled plant cover.
This is what you step in. Like right here, there's just a little depression, and there's water.
Got a couple things up ahead that are staying low.
And then you also deal with this stuff, which just sticks into your pants.
Come on out with Badgerland Birding. It's lots of fun.
This is the time of your life right now.
This is.
You'll remember this one.
I almost lost my boot.
I almost lost my leg.
While trudging through the swampy terrain, we encountered a few new species, including Wilson snipe, soras, and sedge wrens. Suddenly, we caught our first glimpse of a Nelson sparrow flying up, only to disappear in the grass a moment later.
I'm 99% sure there's a Nelson sparrow in here. We saw it fly, and it was noticeably darker than the LeConte, just in flight even, and it went down in this group of little plants. So I'm hoping we can get a look at if it pops out.
We kept walking through the weeds, and after a while, our determination was rewarded.
Think I got a Nelson's. He's coming out a little bit.
You sure it's a Nelson?
Nope.
Oh.
Now I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Got him. He's
Got
over
him,
in the
got him.
shadow.
Yep.
Got him.
Yep, got him. He went to the left
Just
and
flew.
down.
Yep.
Yay.
I don't know where it went down at.
Good job.
Nelson sparrows are very bright colored birds with orange on the face, chest, and wings. They have a gray nape as well as a gray stripe on the top of their head. They have a brown streaked back and chest with gray cheeks. This species winters on the Atlantic coast of the United States, including the Gulf Coast. In spring and fall, they move across the eastern and midwestern United States to get to their summer breeding grounds. Nelson sparrows can be found in slightly different habitats depending on the time of the year. In winter, look for this species in coastal wetlands and salt marshes. In summer, they like to breed in marshes and ponds with mixed vegetation. For most people in North America, the best time to find Nelson sparrows is during migration, when they turn up along the coast of the Great Lakes and in damp, weedy areas, typically places with water nearby.
5 times the charm.
Was it worth it?
Yes.
I like how, Derek, you're just like, absolutely. Colette's
This is
like,
my first
yeah.
time. What have you guys been doing the last 5 times you came out here?
Well, we've never been out here before. Well, actually, they have.
But we weren't in the muck.
Yeah, we weren't in the muck.
So you have to ruin a few pairs of pants and shoes and boots to get one.
2 for 2 on the secretive sparrows today. Nelsons and LeContes. It's always nice to go out and look for both, because even if you don't find both of them, you may find one. A little tough to differentiate between the two, but really cool secretive birds. You alright, little buddy?
I got by the plants. It's the curse of the Nelson sparrows. This just kind of goes to show the extreme lengths that birders will go to find birds. I don't know that the normal citizen would do this.
We walked out of the swampy fields feeling accomplished in finding our 2 target birds.
That was a ton of work over a span of a couple of weeks to try to find Nelson sparrows. And the LeConte sparrow is honestly just a nice bonus, but it's another one of those secretive species that you can't always count on getting. But hopefully through this trip you saw just how difficult it was to track down these skulky birds. I mean, you'll see them fly, they'll go down, sometimes they won't be calling, they won't be sitting up. It's just a very difficult thing to do, but in my opinion, it was worth it. It's always fun to see them, and especially to go on this crazy trek like this to a beautiful marsh that you probably wouldn't have visited otherwise.
Birding can sometimes be frustrating and challenging, but when you find what you're looking for in the end, it's incredibly rewarding. It takes a certain type of person to wander through weeds, thorns, and muddy water to find a specific bird. But for us, this wasn't the first time, and it certainly won't be the last. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.